Okay, it says live. Let some people get rolling in here, and then we'll start. Let's get this posted. It's good there. Okay. So a couple more people get in here, and then we'll get started. It's going to be an interesting week for sure. Game theory is going to be a big thing for me this week. Let's see. All right, we got enough viewers. I believe we can go ahead and get started. All right, so this week is the Pure Michigan 400. It's at Michigan, as you guys can see. It's a 2-mile track. Kyle Larson dominated here last time. Him and Martin Truex were the class of the field, and you could very well see that again today. So don't be surprised if that happens, but obviously there's some more guys in contention today. I'll get to them here before long. But as usual, I'm going to start out breaking down salaries. I'm by myself this week. Hopefully that'll change next week. It's in Bristol, so I'm not sure whether I'll be available for the show or not. I'll probably be going to the races, so it's going to be a hectic schedule. But we'll get something done, and we'll get you guys covered. So that being said, we'll get started. Yeah, so the lower salary guys here, the only guy that I would even consider at this point, maybe Corey LaJoie. And I'm not even saying you should need to play these guys. I think you can build a very good roster without any of these guys. But Corey LaJoie has been improving steadily each week. If he can avoid crashes and stuff, he does have a chance. But this is a track, 2-mile track, where you want horsepower down the straightaways. And, I just wouldn't put any stock in any of these guys. So if you're playing one lineup, do not play any of these guys. If you're max entering, 150 lineups, maybe have a couple of these guys just to cover your butt in case something weird does happen. But obviously, I'm saying stay away from these guys. So, Corey LaJoie at 4,600 may be worthy of a spot in one of your 60, 70 lineups. That being said, the next guy I'd like to talk about here, just looking at the starting lineup, pops out. But, we'll just jump right in. We'll go by the starting lineup this week. So, you got Ty Dillon starting 33rd. I think he's going to be – let's see. Okay. Yeah, my cameraman froze there for a second. But Ty Dillon starts 33rd. I think he's going to be really popular in cash games this week. So, I think, there's not really much you can ask for at this point. 22nd returns 5 times value. So, I'm probably going to have quite a few Ty Dillon shares in GPPs and cash. So, if I'm building my cash lineup right now and I've not did that, Ty Dillon's going to be in that cash lineup. So, his practice speeds do not blow you away. The RCR guys, let's just talk about that for a second. RCR, the speed's not there again this week. So, I'm going to be really low on the RCR guys. But, you got Ty Dillon here at 33rd. We'll talk about Menard and Allmendinger in a second, but they're just not showing any speed. They do warrant spots just because they qualify so low, but you're really just hoping they can get near 20 at this point, with the speed they're showing. So that being said, at this point, you don't really have to talk about practice speeds with these guys. You just got to hope they survive and move forward at this point. So that's all I can really say about Ty Dillon. He's in my cash lineup, and he's going to be in a fair share of my GPP lineups as well. So Paul Menard starting 30th, about the same argument as you got for Ty Dillon. I'm not a big Paul Menard guy. Never have been, never will be. He's getting the 21 ride, and he's done nothing but have a rich dad to get that ride. So at $6,500, $100 cheaper than Ty Dillon, go Ty Dillon. Now, Menard's probably going to be the lower on play, and if you're a GPP guy, you might want to go Menard. But I do think both of them are going to carry 20%, 20, 30%, in GPP. So Um, yeah, just go Ty Dillon. That's my personal preference, and he seems to get the best results out of his car. AJ Allmendinger, he's in that same boat. He's at 6,300 now. I'll probably have more Allmendinger. I think you got to rank them. I think you got to rank them Ty Dillon, Allmendinger, Menard in that way. But we're about to talk about a guy here in a second, Eric Almirola. He's very cheap and probably could return some good value this week. But yeah, so go Ty Dillon, Allmendinger, then Menard in that order. I would assume that's how I'm doing it. Now I'm not always the guy giving the right advice. I'm more of a risky top player, so that's how I'm approaching it, being a little bit more chalky. But I'm going to look at practice here real fast. I'm just going to break down some of these drivers in their best order. So if you look at this, the RCR guys are just way off of it. I mean, you look here, I think Austin Dillon may have the best speed of any RCR car. So I guess I can go ahead and eliminate these RCR guys real fast just to save you guys time. So if you're playing, Austin Dillon is 7,000. He starts 17th. So, I mean, at this point, I'm probably not playing him because he don't have a top 15 car. Now, he did win at Charlotte, which is an intermediate track, but it's not this long. There's not showing the speed you want at one of these long tracks where horsepower is so dependent. You know, they're 2 seconds off of what these top 2 to 3 seconds off these top guys. So that just shows you how fast these guys are, and it's just not worth it. So I'm going to be like I said, in GPPs on him. Let's see. Next on the RCR list, Ryan Newman, 25th. Now, him and Ty Dillon are probably the guys I'm going to have the most of. But I got to be honest with you. Ryan Newman, just looking at practice, he doesn't look as good as Austin Dillon. So, I mean, he starts 25th, and he does get the most out of his car. He seems to always find his way in the top 20, get it done, that sort of thing. But, I mean, if you look at his price tag, Ryan Newman, 7,300. Let's be honest here. Would you rather just go Eric Almirola at 6,000? I mean, that's where I'm heading. If I'm looking at this and I'm saying, what do I want to eat the most of? Eric Almirola looks like he's got a better car, starts one position above him. Why don't you just go ahead and save the salary and don't worry about Ryan Newman? That's how I'm approaching it. Like I said, not a big fan of the RCR guys, and I'm just going to quit talking about them because they don't warrant too much talk. So that being said, we can go ahead and eliminate those guys. Eric Almirola, like I said, he's 6,000. He's a really good option. I think he's got a better car than Allmendinger, all those guys. He's probably not going to blow you away with the speed. I think he's got a top 20 car. I think he can get it done. Stay out of trouble, that's his thing. He gets into trouble a lot of times at these kind of tracks. But, I mean, if you're looking at an optimal lineup, 6,000, he's going to get you the bang for your buck. So he's the best value option, I think, this week, and it's not even close other than Ty Dillon. So we'll move on from him. Let's see. Let's look at the salaries here. Make sure I ain't missing anything. But we'll just go by qualifying position. Matt DiBenedetto, 27th, qualified too high. We used him last week. David Reagan, 28th, a little bit higher than what I would like to have. Michael McDowell, 26th. So let's talk about him for a second. He's in that RCR horsepower type group. He's generally got just as much speed as those guys, if not more. So that being said, I mean, 26th at his salary is 5,600. You can sprinkle him in some lineups, and it looks really nice. So I like Michael McDowell as a really good option this week. If you can get him in, go for it. Obviously, Eric Almirola's got the better car, but at 5,600, I don't think he's going to be that high owned. I could be wrong about that, but who knows? I like McDowell. I like Almirola. So it's just basically personal preference here. Go either or. Both are really fine options, but obviously, if you're hoping for a higher finishing position, go Eric Almirola. So moving on from him, that brings us to these Hendrick guys. So these Hendrick guys are starting up front. Now they're starting in the back. Excuse me. You got Casey Kane, 23rd, Jimmy Johnson 22nd. Both guys going to backup cars. And initially, that's going to scare a lot of people away, I would think. But here's the deal. We've seen so many times in the past where Jimmy Johnson has went to a backup car, and what has he done? He's did nothing but fly to the front. So I'm not really worried about Jimmy Johnson. And like I said, he's probably going to be in my cash lineup just because, he's going to be scored from P22. That's another important topic to discuss. He's going to be scored from P22. Casey Kane is going to be scored from P23. I like Jimmy Johnson a lot this week. He's probably going to be one of my core drivers, as he will be in a lot of lineups. The smarter players are probably going to have him in his lineups and realize, him technically he's going to be scored from P22, but he's going to be starting in the back. Don't worry about that. This guy will find a way, whether it's on strategy or whatever. I firmly do believe the car is going to be just as good as his normal car. So look for him to come around top 10, maybe even inside the top 10. So no worries there for me. I think he's a cash lock, and he's going to be one of the more popular options, once you get in these higher dollar contests, I would assume. So Casey Kane. Now, here's the thing about Casey Kane. He's did nothing but disappoint this year. He got that one win, barring, a pit strategy. It's going to take that pit strategy again for him to even sniff the top 10. He was showing elite speed with his first car. He was showing good top 12 speed. But here's the thing. You got Chad Knaus and you got Keith Rodden on the box. Keith Rodden is nowhere near Chad Knaus. So if you put that in your put that together in your mind, and you're just a casual NASCAR fan, odds are you're going to realize, well, Jimmy Johnson's going to have the better car. I'm not a big fan of Casey Kane. Obviously, being scored from 23rd, I do think he can come in the top 15. But let's just look at his price here as I drop my phone. But let's look at his price. Casey Kane is going to be $7,600. So he's right there. I mean, I like him better than Austin Dillon. I like him better than. See, here's the thing with me. If you got him at 7,600, why not just go Daniel Suarez? We'll talk about Daniel Suarez here in a second. But Daniel Suarez is $200 more expensive. Daniel Suarez has elite speed this week. He's got a top 10 car, no problem. I mean, he starts 16th, granted that. But if you look at the speed of Daniel Suarez, just save your time and do that. We're going to talk about Dale Jr. here in a second as I get to him. But, I mean, I like Dale Jr. better than him. I like Daniel Suarez better than him. So he warrants exposure. If you're doing 20 lineups like I am, I'll probably have 15, 20% just to cover my butt. But that's how I'm doing this week. Moving on here, Trevor Bayne, 21st. The Roush Fenway guys haven't showed much this week, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm just looking here at the practice stuff. Yeah, these guys don't look like they're having too good of a weekend. Trevor Bayne, he's a little bit slower than Austin Dillon. So starting 21st, obviously I'm not going to put too much into practice just because I think you can make great adjustments during the race. But starting 21st, I think he's a good GPP play. Not too great in practice, like I said, but these guys seem to be able to get it done. Last week they had a horrid weekend, but, we'll see what happens. Obviously, if you're going Trevor Bayne or Ricky Stenhouse, that's Trevor Bayne all day just because Ricky Stenhouse starts 14th. But like I said, he's a good GPP play. I'm not going crazy over him. Probably have 15%. Obviously, I'm going to have more of him than I will Casey Kane, barring price. That's common sense. But I'm just not a big fan of those guys this week. Let's see here. Moving up on the starting grid here. Chris Buescher starts 20th. He's been starting 20th the past couple of weeks. This is a good track. It's his home track. So if you're going to look for a sneaky option, once again, I think Chris Buescher is going to go lower on 5,900. If you look at his practice times, he is right there behind Austin Dillon in terms of RCR speed. So starting 20th, the price he's given 5,900. I think he's a little bit underpriced. I mean, I think he could come in the top 15. This guy's a guy that we keep saying is in trash equipment week in and week out, but he's very sneaky. I know my guy PJ, he's probably watching this right now, but I'm sure he'll smile when I say I think Chris Buescher's an elite GPP play this weekend. Nobody's going to be on him. I think you can get him at 5 to 10%, if that. So, there's so many other options around here at this price. You got Almirola starting farther back, Menard starting farther back, Allmendinger. They're just going to go farther back for place differential. But if you want to be honest, I think with Chris Buescher, if he can finish around 15th, I think that's going to bring great value back to him. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. I think he's going to be very low owned, and I think you can get him in a week. It's his home track. I know a lot of people don't put too much stock into that, but the tendency is if it's your home track, you want to do great. You want to do great things there. So I'm sure he's going to give it all he's got. No, this ain't his home track. I'm thinking of Texas. My bad. I don't know what I'm thinking of. It's Michigan. I don't know why I went all of a sudden on Texas, but bear with me. It's been a long morning. I've been doing some other stuff, but Michigan, I got to get the track right. Sorry. All right, so Chris Buescher, Texas, Michigan, whatever it is, I like him this week. He's going to be very low owned. Fire away. Well, don't fire away, but, I mean, he does warrant some spots, and I would probably go over the field on him if you're wanting to play game theory. Oh, I can't believe I thought this was Texas for a minute. Oh, my bad. Talking to yourself for an hour does get to you eventually. I promise you guys. If you haven't done this before, it's crazy sometimes. But moving on. So we'll move up on the starting grid. And that brings us to Dell Jr. at 19th. Now, this guy, last week I said don't even touch him. And what happens? His engine blows up or something. He loses power. He does something. I don't know. I forget what happened, but he was very popular in cash games. I was very surprised. He didn't show speed, but, he warranted a spot on the cash team. But last week, his bad luck continued. This week, obviously, I think things have changed. And when I say things have changed, I mean he is one of my favorite plays today. At first, I was saying, Rule 88. There's a rule of thumb, Rule 88. We all talk about it. If you're in the Fantasy Degen Slack chat, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, I've made a rule. We've made a rule. I don't know who made it, but Rule 88, don't play Dell Jr. You don't have to worry about him disappointing you. This week, Dell Jr. is up here. Dell Jr. is showing elite speed. When I say elite speed, I mean top 5, not top 5, but he's top 10 easily. And if you look at his price here, 7,900, he's fell all the way to this. So in a week where I think a lot of people may jump off of him from the past couple weeks, you want to be up here on Dell Jr. So this is how I'm doing it. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to double the field on Dell Jr. this week. I think he's a great play. And when I mean he's showing elite speed, I mean he's just constantly, he's showing in practice, he's happy with his car. I mean, it's just crazy not to play him this week. I know that he's not showed the speed in the past weeks, but starting 19th, you would think this is a cash play. But the more I think about it, the more I think this is going to be a very elite, as I talked about Chris Buescher, this is going to be a very elite GPP play because nobody's going to be on him. So I'm all in on the Dell Jr. boat this week. I think you should be too. Just trust the practice numbers. Last week, the practice numbers were not there. This week, he's a top 7, top 8 car, barring any crazy thing happening. I'm sure there could be something where he runs over a Pepsi drink, goes through his engine, blows it up, or something crazy could happen with this guy. I mean, it's just something every week. So, but if there's a week to go all in on him, this is the week. So I'm going to have 40, 50% on him. I'm not going to sweat it at all because I do think the more I think about it, the more I've came around to him on that. So that's how I'm approaching it, and I'm not going to be worried about it at all. So that being said, we're going to move on. Danica Patrick starting 18th. She's just too high for me, so don't even play her. She does warrant a couple exposure if you're playing all those max entering contests. Another guy that I just touched base on, Austin Dillon, not going to spend too much time on him, but Daniel Suarez 16th. We talked about this earlier with Casey Kane. The guy just shows too much speed. He's shown speed week after week after week, and I've been on him constantly, but nobody seems to be following him. I mean, this guy is showing way too much speed. He's in JGR equipment. He's in Toyotas. Week after week, these Toyotas continue to impress and be the class of the field. So, with that being said, Daniel Suarez, lock and load. I really like him this week. You should be too. Kurt Busch, 15th. I mean, this is a guy where, the tendency is you got to be scared off of him like Dale Jr. He's always something wrong with him. I think you can get away with him this week. Obviously, they're not showing the speed that you would like. But, if you're a GPP guy and you want to look at ownership, I mean, looking at his price, I mean, that's juicy enough. But, I mean, 8,000 for a guy that's a proven winner. He's a champion. He's 100 more than Dale Jr. I think more people would be on Jr. than they will Kurt Busch. That being said, I think he's going to be even lower on than Dale Jr. So he's right there in that middle, 15th. I think he could vault to the top in some lineups. I think he could be we keep saying very sneaky, but I think he's going to be anywhere from 10, 20%. I think 15% is a good number, starting 15th. But with one of those guys, I mean, those are the key to winning sometimes. 15th. But, I'm not going crazy over Kurt Busch this week. I'll be honest with you. I think he's a good play. He's a very sneaky GPP guy, but the speed is just not where it is with these other guys. Like I said, Toyotas, Hendrick, the speed's just not there with the Fords and so on and so forth. His teammate Kevin Harvick, if I'm playing one of those guys, I'm going Kevin Harvick, but obviously he's more expensive. So race setup-wise, he could be better than his practice is showing. But, Casey Kane's first car was faster than Kurt Busch. So that being said, I think Kurt Busch is probably going to I think his ceiling is 10th. I don't think he can finish anywhere better than that. Obviously, I've been wrong before, but I just don't see him improving his position that much. But I think ownership-wise, you can get him very good this week. So, moving on. Ricky Stenhouse, I touched base on earlier. 14th is too high for me. I've said this before. He did finish well here in Michigan before the June-July race, I think. He did do pretty good here. So, I mean, starting 14th, I think that's going to scare a lot of people off of him, me, myself included. So, maybe 15%, 20%. That's the range for him. His practice speeds are not there. Obviously, he got in a wreck, so they did fix his car in practice. They got him back out there. But, I mean, it's just too much uncertainty for him. I think, like I said, Trevor Bayne, these guys find a way to get it done. But I think 14th, I think, like I said with Kurt Busch, I think 10th is his ceiling. And that's being optimistic. I'd take Kurt Busch to finish higher than Ricky Stenhouse this week. Both being forwards, but I just like Kurt Busch better this week. So, just not a big fan of either of those guys. Now we're going to start talking about these guys that I really love this week. Obviously, getting the top 12, top 13, 14, you're going to love some guys. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and discuss my strategy, and this is going to be highly debated. And I know some people are going to call me crazy. But I'm going to go ahead and discuss 1 through 13 here, just talking about plays and my strategy. And my strategy is going to sound crazy. So before I say anything, do not follow this strategy if you're not willing to be disappointed. But here's what I'm doing. The general public, I feel, always sees the pole position and they go crazy on it. It was proven again last week, Kyle Busch, but obviously you've been seeing Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, blah, 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 blah. First place tends to have very high exposure. So what I'm saying is this week, Brad Keselowski is going to be 40%, 50% on maybe. I think obviously when you get to the $1, $2 contest, he's probably not going to be that high on. I would say 35%, on these the lower dollar contests. But I'm not a big I want to say I'm not a big fan of Keselowski just because I really like guys like Kenseth, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex. I just like all those guys better. I think they got better cars. Practice shows that. So Keselowski is a top 6 car, I think. But I think he's in the 6th, 5th spot more than he is the 1st, 2nd. So with that being said, here's my strategy. I will have Brad Keselowski in my cash games. But when it comes to GPPs, I'm fading Brad Keselowski. I know that's going to sound crazy. I know you guys are probably going to shoot me and say, what am I listening to? You're probably going to turn this off right now and say, wow, this guy's an idiot. But guess what? You got to stick it out there sometimes. You got to be aggressive. And I just don't think he's going to lead that many laps. Obviously, you don't have to have him lead all the laps to be in the first winning lineup. But here's what I'm saying. I think one of these guys, whether it's Kevin Harvick, whether it's Matt Kenseth, whether it's Kyle Busch, whether it's even Truex at Rockets to the Field, I'm saying this. I think Brad Keselowski leads around 10 to 15 laps. And obviously with this being a huge track, that gives you plenty of time to catch him. It's a 2-mile track. Remember that. This is Brad Keselowski's home track. He's never won here. That I can think of. I don't want to say that for sure, but I'm pretty positive he's never won here. He's always had some bad luck here. I mean, you just can't get away from bad luck. It's everywhere in the track history for him. Obviously, he did put together a good finish here the past couple years. But, I mean, before that, and, he's everywhere at this track. So, here's the thing. I'm playing him cash games. This is a cash game hedge for me. I'm playing him in cash games. I'm going to play equal cash to GPP this week. But in GPPs, and if you guys don't know what I do, I max the 4, max the 2, max the 1. I seldomly get out there in the $8, $9 contest. I may throw a bullet in the 27, 2 or 3 in the 27 every now and then, but I love playing the $1, $2, $4. That's what I've been doing the past couple weeks, and it's been paying off pretty good. So you can get some pretty good results out of that. And with DraftKings doing what they did with the entries and all that, you can get away from some of these sharper players. I think you guys should look into that more. But here's what I'm doing. I'm not playing Keselowski in those. I'm hedging in cash. Like I said, it's aggressive, but at the same time, if you play him in cash and you enter the same amount, you can get away with it, I do think. So I think he's going to be so high owned in cash that even though he might have a horrible day, I still think you can cash. So, I mean, you got to look at it on two sides of the thing here. I'm banking on him being 40% owned, 45%. I'm not sure if he gets there to 50 just because him being Brad Keselowski and people wanting Kyle Busch and these other guys. But I'm laying it out there this week. I'm doing a full fade in GPPs, and I'm not confident about it. But at this point, and I'm not going away from it, I just have a gut feeling that he's not going to do well here. I just have one of those feelings that, I don't know, it's just a gut feeling here. But if you're a smart player, you're a casual player, if you're playing 3 lineups, 2 lineups warrant Keselowski. If you don't have a good bankroll, don't do this strategy. Please don't. That's what I can say here. If you have a bankroll that you've been working on like I have over the past couple of years, you got a solid bankroll where you can afford to do this, maybe go underweight. I'd say go 20%, 25%. And, bank for him to have a mistake or so. But if you're playing 2 to 3 lineups, please don't have – you got to have Keselowski in those, I think. It's a safe play. And like I said, this is being aggressive. Hopefully I can make enough up in golf here today. I haven't checked the golf lineups, but hopefully if I do have a horrible day, I can hedge in some other sports. So that's my strategy. Like I said, if you got a good bankroll, maybe go underweight on him. But if you got a low bankroll and you're playing, $10, $20, I mean, you got to have him. You got to have Keselowski. That's all I can say. So with that being said, that's my strategy. So I'm going to talk about some other guys here. Martin Truex is one of those guys. Now, if you followed NASCAR, you followed DraftKings, you've been playing week after week after week, you know this. But if you're a first-time viewer of this, here's the thing. There's been 3 guys this year have been the class of the field. The 18, 78, 42. Those 3 guys have led laps at every single track, it seems like. Kyle Larson's been off of the past couple weeks. You know, he won here earlier this year. But here's the thing. If you're not going Keselowski, I'm stockpiling all my exposures in the 18, the 78. I'm going to be underweight on the 42. I'm not sold that he's got a good enough car to lead laps and finish in the top 5, but obviously it's Kyle Larson. That man's probably the best driver in NASCAR, barring equipment. But if I'm starting lineups, I like the 18. I like the 78. And, I talked about a couple other guys earlier on in the show that you can just build good lineups with, and you don't have to worry about P1 not letting you down. Obviously, I started looking at it, and I went back to 2016. I went back to 2015 when Keselowski qualified on the pole. There were certain instances where he never led a lap. There were other instances where you could tell he had the best car and he led 80, 100 laps. So for me, looking at those, I'm going to project Keselowski to lead 15, 20 laps. And I think I can get away with it. So I think Kyle Busch is going to be that guy that gets to the front first. If Kenseth or Harvick doesn't get there, which I don't think they do, Kenseth is popping up in a lot of people around the industry's charts, even in NASCAR industry, not fantasy. There's some guys that really like Kenseth today. But starting 4th is just not enough for me. I think Kyle Busch gets around him, whether it's on the first lap, because, you can go 3-4 wide here, no problem. So if you're talking about a guy like Kyle Busch that threads a needle, Kyle Busch could realistically go 3 or 4 wide into turn 1 or 2 and get up to 2nd. So I think Joey Logano is going to fall back immediately on the restart. Let's talk about him for a second. I don't like Joey Logano at all. I'm doing a full fade on him as well. Obviously, he's got to do whatever he can do to lead laps. And he's showing pretty good speed this week, not elite like Keselowski. So if you're debating between the two, play Keselowski, no questions asked. But I'm probably not going to be playing any of those guys. I'm fading the front row, and I know it sounds crazy the more I think about it, but it's just one of the things you got to stick to your guns, and hopefully it works out. But back to Kyle Busch, back to Truex. I think Kyle Busch gets up there, he passes him, and I think Kyle Busch goes on to lead a couple of segments. I think the first segment, I forget what the segments are this week. I pulled up here really fast, but I think Kyle Busch gets up there first, and I think by that time Truex has made his way to the top 5. I think Keselowski's fallen to about 4th or 5th. But, yeah, so Kyle Busch and Truex look like they have the class of the field once again. So with that being said, you got Truex at 13th, starting 13th. I'm probably going to be 80, 90%. You talk about people going all in on P1. I'm going all in on P13. I think there's no way that Truex doesn't come in the top 5. There's no way there's not a picture in my mind that says he's not going to lead laps. I think Truex leads laps. So for me, I'm going overweight on Mark Truex, even more overweight than the field. I'm sure he's going to be so popular. I'm jumping up even more. I'm going way over the field. So if you guys are listening, you probably said, well, this guy's got a tight core this week. So I said maybe Dale Jr. I'm going overweight on. There was a couple of guys that I said I was going overweight on. Yeah. I think this is a week where you could get away with spreading your exposures. But I think there's a couple of guys that I really like. I think 10 to 12 drivers I really love this week. Obviously, it's risky. I know, given the fact that I'm risking it all, not playing the top 2 positions. But I think this is a tight core week for me. When a week I think a lot of people are going all around the place. I'm really confident in a couple of guys. So, yeah, so Truex should be up there. I'm going overweight on him. Kyle Busch, I'm going overweight on him. I think the 1878 stacks, if you don't have those every single week, something's wrong with you. I think this is another week where Kyle Busch, he has that win. I think he can play strategy here, get the lead, regardless of where Keselowski's at in segment 1. Segment 2, or stages, whatever. At this point, I'm just talking to myself, but yeah, I think Kyle Busch leads laps. I think Truex leads laps. I think they're right up there at the end, and I'm gonna pick my race winner at the end of the day. But obviously those are the two I'm deciding between. I think it's just one of them weeks again where it's just going to pay off having the most speed, and Toyotas just have not let me down so far. So I'm going to keep riding that boat. So we talked about those two. Let's talk about some other guys here. Notice the hat. This hat, if you're not familiar with it, I'm going to take off. Look at my ugly hair, but it's a 21 hat. For you that's not familiar with NASCAR, this is a Ryan Blaney hat. He starts 12th. And this guy has top 7 speed. He starts 12th. So I just said I'm going all in on P13. I'm going to be very high on P12 too. Right there, 12 and 13, I think, are 2 of the top 6 cars, 2 of the top 7 cars. So if you look at Ryan Blaney, I'll pull his salary up here for you guys that don't know. Ryan Blaney is $8,700. Now, that's a lot for Ryan Blaney. And initially, I said I'm going to go overweight on him, but $8,700 is really tough. And I'll tell you why it's really tough. You got a guy up there in 9,100, Jimmy Johnson, I've already touched base on. He starts 22nd. So it's really hard to go overweight on Ryan Blaney when you got Jimmy Johnson right there. But here's the thing. If you're a GPP player, gosh, Ryan Blaney is probably going to go underowned. He's probably going to go overlooked in my eyes. And I think he's going to come in the top 5 this week. I think he has – this is my thoughts. And it's probably going to sound crazy, but I do think he's got a better car than Keselowski. I think he's got a better car than Logano for sure. He starts farther back. I don't think Blaney leads laps. I think he can come in the top 7, top 6 in return value. He's going to be very low owned, and I've talked about Eric Jones in the past in this position. This is just a position many people do not look at. They'll look at 15th through 20th, but when it goes 10 to 15, that's dead man's land. Nobody likes that position because you either got to be really confident leading laps or you have to be like Martin Truex. So if I can get 2 guys in this dead man's area this week, I think it's going to be really sneaky because I guarantee Ryan Blaney will go underowned. I'll almost bet my DraftKings earnings he will. I don't think he's going to go over 25%. It's just not happening this week. So I really like him this week. He's got top speed this week. Not Toyota top speed, but he's got next level speed. So really like him this week. Clint Boyer, I'm just not sold on him. Like I said, if I'm playing a Stuart Haas guy this week, I'm playing Kevin Harvick or Kurt Busch. Clint Boyer's going to be one of them guys that are lower on. He's in dead man's land. Denny Hamlin, same story, 10th. People are going to look at Kyle Larson. They're going to look at Truex again. Denny Hamlin's, he's a Toyota. He's got elite speed. But here's the thing with Denny Hamlin. His wife still not had that kid. His wife's expecting a kid. She was expecting one last week. It's even a week later. I think they got Christopher Bell on the box here this week. So, I don't know. He's just too risky for me. He's got good speed. Like I said, all the Toyotas have good speed this week, but just too much. This guy's a guy, he already said if his wife goes into labor, he's getting out of the car immediately. So that's enough to scare me. Another one of these guys I might just fully fade just because the stars are not lining up for me. Just not liking him. So touch base on Kyle Larson earlier. I'm considering a full fade. Like I said, I think he's a top 5 car. I don't think he leads laps, though. And his price, you'd want this guy to lead laps. This guy won here in the early race this year. But 10,300, I'll take Kyle Busch. I'll take Martin Truex over him. I like Kyle Larson obviously better than Kevin Harvick, better than Chase Elliott. But Chase Elliott's a guy, he's like a top 5 driver every time we come here. So Chase Elliott starting fifth. I can't see him finishing better than fifth. We'll just go ahead and knock him out. He's right up there with Dale Jr. showing that speed, but I mean, you got a guy starting 19th, or you got a guy starting fifth. I'm going to take the guy 19th every single day. Obviously, barring any craziness happening, but I think they got very identical cars. And when you get a guy that's a whole lot cheaper, starting farther back, just go Dale Jr. over Chase Elliott for me. So, Eric Jones starting 8th. Same story here. He's getting to where he's like Blaney, he's a lock for a top 10 qualifying spot. Too far up for me. Again, got great speed this week. Just prefer guys around him just a little bit better. Jamie McMurray, I said you could play him last week, and he was up there, top 3. But what happened? Had some bad luck. I think one of the stops, he couldn't get his tire off or something like that. He had like a 20-second stop. Killed his day. But Kyle Busch already stated that he's probably my second favorite play behind Truex. Matt Kenseth, a lot of people in the industry love him. NASCAR industry, not fantasy. Not sure what fantasy industry thinks of him. Starting 4th, I just can't see him leading laps. You look at his car, I think his car's showing better speed than Truex, but I don't think that's going to hold at all. Truex has a longer run car anyway. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Kenseth this week. He's probably going to finish in the top 5, top 6. Obviously, I'm saying everybody's going to finish in the top 6. I understand that, but that's his ceiling, I think, is right where he's starting 4th. I don't think he finishes above that. Kevin Harvick, I've been saying it all day. I'll show that if I'm playing a Stewart-Haas guy, it's going to be Kevin Harvick. And the practice numbers are not there. Rodney Childers is happy with the car. As far as I know, Kevin Harvick's happy with the car. But when they say they're happy, they were happy last week. They were happy the week before. The results have not been there for me. When he says he's happy, top 5 car could be happy. But when we're fantasy guys and we see he starts 3rd, we're looking for next level happy. We're hoping this guy's so happy he's going to lead all the laps. You just can't go overweight on Kevin Harvick. Obviously, I think he warrants exposure just because he starts 3rd. And same with Kenseth. He warrants exposure starting that high. But if I'm going Kenseth or Harvick, I think it's a no-brainer I'm going Kenseth just because Kenseth is got elite speed. When I say elite, I'm not talking about great. I'm talking elite. You got good, you got great, and you got elite. Kenseth's up there in the elite speed this week. But I don't think he's got Kyle Busch speed, and I don't think he's got Truex speed. So here's what I can see Kenseth doing. I think if he's got that fast of a car and he can hold off Kyle Busch at the beginning, I do think he can run down Keselowski and Logano. I think he's going to be set. I think Kenseth is going to be second lap 2 or 3. I don't think Logano's going to. I think Logano's going to drop like a rock. I'm just that sold on that. So I think you could see an instance where it's Keselowski, Kenseth, Harvick, Kyle Busch entering, lap 3. And at that point, they're going to be so bunched up together. Obviously, the clean air is going to help Keselowski. Like I said, lead 15, 20 laps. That's what I'm predicting. But I'll just keep nailing the point home. These Toyotas are too strong. And I'm on Team Toyota this week. I drive a Toyota. I'm a Toyota guy other than Ryan Blaney. And I think the Toyotas get it done this week. I don't think Keselowski leads more than 20 laps. But obviously, if he hangs around P3, P4, he could be in the winning lineup if he does lead laps. But like I said, I'm going to full fade in Keselowski in GPPs and cash. I'm blocking it. I'm hedging my bets. So I could come back even. I could come back and just crap in the bed. Who knows? So, that's my strategy this week. I think I've touched base on everybody here. I'm going to go back to our list here and make sure I touched on everyone. Yeah, I think that's everybody. That's my thoughts on it. Obviously, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me talk to myself for an hour. Going on 45 minutes right now. But so we're going to get into my pick to win the race, my pick to have the most DK points. And my pick to win the race, I said earlier, it's going to be Kyle Busch or Mark Truex. Because Truex won last week, I'm going Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch gets it done, and I don't think it's close. I think Kyle Busch is so pissed off from last week where Keselowski took him out having the best car, and Mark Truex went in and scavenged the win. I think Kyle Busch has the best car again this week, and I think this week he gets his second win, second in 3 weeks. And I think you can see this guy reel off 5 wins at the end. I think he can win next week. I'll be in attendance in Bristol. Hope to see some of you guys down there or down here next week. Kyle Busch used to be the king of Bristol. Him and you talk about Keselowski. Let's just say this: if I'm going overweight on Keselowski, if Keselowski starts P1 next week, I will go overweight on him. This week, I just can't do it. So I mean, them short tracks, they even stuff up so much that I think you could get away with Keselowski because Keselowski has great history there, and so does Kyle Busch. I mean, it's going to be a great week next week. Encourage you guys to come check it out in Bristol if you're near the area. But my pick to win the race, Kyle Busch. My pick to score the most DK points. I went back and forth on Truex and Jimmy Johnson, but I think I'm going to go Jimmy Johnson just because he starts 22nd, and I do think he gets in the top 10. His backup car, I could almost guarantee he's going to be better than his first car. So, I mean, them guys are just magicians. Chad Knaus. I think Cole Pern's better than Chad Knaus now. I'm just solely convinced Cole Pern's the best crew chief in NASCAR. And that being said, I think I've closed everything out here. If you guys are not signed up, if you're not a Fantasy Degens Slack chat member watching this, if you're one of my YouTube viewers week after week after week, I highly encourage you to go over to fantasydegens.com, sign up. You get full access to me 24/7 in the Slack chat. That thing pays for itself. I think $9.99 per month. You get all the sports, and the Slack chat just pays for itself. You got some of the best experts in the industries. WNBA, we are killing it. I can honestly say I think we have the best WNBA crew there is. It's one of them new sports where you can take great advantage of, and they've helped so many members win so much money. Got NASCAR. We got a great crew of NASCAR. I'm just not the only guy on Fantasy Degens. These other guys that are not crazy, that are saying play Keselowski, they're over there. They probably have a little bit more sense than I do. They've been around DFS a whole lot longer than I have. Obviously, I just got kickstarted in this here in the past year, but I've shown great progress, and I got to thank you loyal viewers on YouTube again for being with me through this journey. But yeah, I can't rave enough about Fantasy Degens. The site we have, the roster generator, we just got some new advanced tools this week. I think it's going to be easier for you guys to pick out who the good plays are. And if you're not familiar with NASCAR in general, it's going to save you time. Just put some rosters in there, set your exposures, and boom, you have it. Saves you so much time. And that's probably what I'm going to be doing here in 10 minutes when I get off here is hammering home my 20 lineups this week. And with that being said, be sure to subscribe. This channel continues to grow. Obviously, it's called the Sports Force. YouTube's the same, but obviously the site and everything. I'm over at Fantasy Degens. You can find me full time over there now. So that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And if you've got any questions, hit me up on Twitter at RotoRacer or on Fantasy Degens Slack chat under the NASCAR channel. I'll be over there. It's going to be a great sports day. I'll be tuned in on PGA. I'll be tuned in on NASCAR. And that being said, hope you guys profit today. Hope some of you guys take my advice in fading the front row. Other guys, if you don't have a good bankroll, be sure to have your Keselowski in there. Because I'm not saying once again, I'll say this one more time. If you got a low bankroll, play Keselowski. It's simple as that. If you got a bigger bankroll, you want to be aggressive, just fade them. That being said, I'm out of here, guys, and good luck today, and hope to see some green screens next week. Thank you.